this week's episode of Bales and Tales, joined by your host Pranav, and guess who's here? BG.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's only been, 2 weeks? The show must go on, as we all know, but glad to join my partner in crime again and looking forward to talk some cricket.
Absolutely. Yeah, glad to have you back as well. We had a cameo from Shelby last episode, but I think you have big shoes to fill. But I'm sure you'll do great at filling. Yeah. Okay. So it's been another exhilarating week of the IPL. I've said this every episode, but it has to be said. It kind of has to be said. That's just how the IPL goes. So we've tried to keep it neutral from our end. Not really side with any team too much. You don't know which team we root for, do you?
I mean, speak for yourself, man. I'm all open. It's all RCB. And I promise you, I will not stop talking about RCB the rest of the show. So I'm just excited that they've had a good week. But anyway.
So we're going to talk about RCB. What? What? RCB, you say? It's been an RCB week, right? Like, we have to talk about them. At the start of last week, RCB were at, 3 wins on the trot at a meager 8 points. And with 2 games to, play this week, no easy games by any means. But they're well and truly, probably, by the skin of their teeth in a way, in the chase to make an IPL spot. What do you make of the comeback? First tell me, PJ, I want to know, were you actually hopeful at the start of this week that this was a possibility?
You always cling onto that tiny bit of hope. And as RCB fans, I feel like we've done this for way too long, right? I'm going to be honest. I had absolutely zero hope. I'm brutally honest here. I had zero hope because things were only going downhill. Our batsmen looked, they looked like they were in no form whatsoever. I mean, everyone was doing badly. There was no semblance of hope. But then, hey, we stitched together a couple of wins, and the next thing you know, all of a sudden throw us in the mix, add a little bit of chaos to the tournament. And did I see, 5 wins in a row happening? No way. And this is just RCB in a nutshell, right? We lost 6 in a row, and then we just turn up and win 5 in a row, just to make things interesting. Because why else do we exist in the IPL, huh? It's just, the feel-good vibe around the franchise that gets everyone going, right? But no, getting back to your question, I got sidetracked. I did not expect it, but couldn't be more proud of the team. Couldn't be proud of the team, that's for sure. And we're still not there yet. But having said that, it's nice knowing that your team's in within a shot, right, of getting there.
Absolutely. And I think, just winning a few games just does so much to, create so much momentum. It is a sliver of a chance, but there is a chance. And it's gotten a whole lot of people excited. There's a whole army in Bengaluru that's like, rallying behind this team. Yeah. And there are pockets of fans all around the world as well, as you can tell. So if you haven't seen what happened, and I know this isn't an RCB fan if you haven't seen what happened, but let's go over what happened at the first game with Punjab. RCB took on Punjab in their second game at the Dharamshala, another beautiful stadium in India. If you haven't seen the last episode, check out the little travel reel we have in there. It was well positioned by our guest star Shelby. But anyway, RCB take on Punjab at Dharamshala with Kaveri making his debut, picks up 2 early wickets of Faf and Will Jacks. Kohli was pretty unamused though, wasn't really feeling it in the post-match specifically, if you know what I'm talking about. But how are we going to criticize him now? Too circumspect in the power play? Nope. Can't attack spin? I think Rahul Chahar would disagree. Too focused on milestones? He didn't need one to steal the headlines this time. Kohli produced answers to every question that's been posed to him from people in the box. RCB get to 241 in their 20 overs with some laboured support from Cam Green and Bengaluru's Dark Knight Dinesh Karthik. Harshal Patel with a 3-run, 3-wicket last over, ending with figures of 3 for 38 off his 4. Punjab certainly had the batting lineup and the reputation to make that total. Even not feel comfortable with that total is what I mean. You're still fearing Punjab at this stage. And Riley Russo, punished an early chance of him put down by Longroar. He goes on to make 61 of 27. But there's something about the RCB bowling these past few games. It has to be said. They've gotten a lot of stick, but they've pulled their socks up. They're much joked about spin department, topple the top order, and their pacers demolished the middle and the tail. Siraj with 3 for 43 off his 4. But it was Kohli again who sort of stole the show with an exhilarating run out of the much feared Shashank Singh now.
Go watch that on YouTube, guys, if you haven't. It is 100% worth it. Right from, when he runs in from the boundary, he swoops on the ball and then he is totally off balance and then he throws and then the next thing it's just chaos all around. One of the greatest runouts I've seen. I 100% recommend.
Absolutely. But greedy for the spotlight a little bit, Virat? I don't know, you have to find a way to criticize this guy, right? Because that seems to be the hot topic these days. But I wanted to sort of open that topic up a little bit. It's been slightly controversial. We've seen Sunil Gavaskar in particular seem quite disheveled, I don't know. Seem pretty aggressive even on air, calling out Star Sports for playing. I mean, okay, we can say this. Star Sports was being a little cheeky. They did play Kohli, saying what only players know what it's about and things like that. And the funny thing is, Sunil Gavaskar has played cricket, so we're not sure why he took it that seriously. But BG, I wanted your take on do you think what is it about? I think in the yesteryear of the game, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think this would be something that happened that often. And I think it was more widely frowned upon, I think. But do you think these kind of exchanges between players and critics has a space in the game? Or, what are your thoughts?
That's a good question. Well, for starters, I do think Sunil Gavaskar I think he's well within his right to feel slightly annoyed by the dig Kohli took at him. But having said that, I do think there is a place for it. First and foremost, the IPL, it is all about entertainment. It is a serious business and it is a serious tournament. I 100% understand. But having said that, I do think that I am all for, banter. And it is banter, let's be real. I do understand that some of these cricketers do tend to take things fairly personally, right? Because nobody wants their games being attacked by, people are sitting in the commentary box, even somebody as, good as Sunil Gavaskar, although, granted, he did come from a completely different era. So, although there's tremendous amount of respect there, I'm sure, between Kohli and, some of the people who are calling him out there, I do think, he was well within his right to call these people out. And it makes for good viewing, right? At the end of the day, you do want a little bit of back and forth. You do want a little bit of drama, right? Outside the field, right? To get injected into this already incredible tournament, right? Where we're seeing spectacles week in and week out. And to be fair to Kohli, I think it's worth calling out that the innings he was called out after was the one where I think he hit 51 of 44 or something like that against Sunrisers Hyderabad, which for context is simply put not good enough, right? Especially in this year's IPL where we're seeing record scores being hit week after week, right? You simply cannot afford to take that much time to, play yourself into an innings because you're just ultimately going to get left behind or you're not setting your team up for success. It's as simple as that, right? But having said that, I think he's made his bat do the talking after that, right? And I think his recent most innings was a testament to that. He had 90 of 40 odd, which is of course an incredible strike rate as well. And so I think I was all for it. I was all for the shots there, and I could see why someone like Sunil Gavaskar would get upset by that. Older people have their own anxieties. We know this too well. But Sunil, it's all right, man. You get over it. It's all good.
It's all right, Sunny. And like one thing I really like about what Kohli does, like it's so cool to see someone like answer critics like one for one. It's just like someone says something, he one-ups his game and does better. It's just the best way you can do it, right? So this isn't someone who's like kind of going after someone. It's just like someone making corrections to their game and making it better. But I thought there was another interesting point that you made there about, here's where the media is and the game of cricket is and like social media is and there are like a lot more elements now than there were before. And we kind of noticed that with baseball as well, right? Like baseball had like I think a lot about and there's someone else who said this now, his name isn't coming to my mind right now, but like baseball I think is less about the approach, but a lot to do with the psychological warfare, right? Like there's a certain kind of fear that's created by speaking in the press. Now this doesn't particularly answer the critic versus player sort of equation, but I think that there is more sort of team versus team warfare that can happen through interviews and through media that can only help the game, that can only make it more exciting. There are tons of sports that utilize this way more. I think boxing and UFC is like one of them that do it to a very, very high extent. And yeah, this is a gentleman's game, so I know this is going to be a huge controversial thing, but I do think that there's a space for it, and if the objective of anything that's being done within a sport is to grow the sport, then why not, right?
Absolutely. And I do think at the end of the day, we need to understand that if you put yourself in the pundit's shoes, or you put yourself in, the commentator's shoes, at the end of the day, it's safe to say that it's more from a constructive criticism sort of angle.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I think players do understand that, but at the same time, it's easy to see why they would get slightly offended by some of those comments, because here they are busting their asses, right? Trying to, make their games better, and then, commentators might not necessarily have known how hard the pitch was to play on. And so it's these things that, can sometimes get blown out of proportion, but I just think it was friendly banter of sorts that, Kohli was really trying to engage with. And it's easy to see why Sunny got, fairly upset. But Sunny, take a chill pill, man. It's all good.
Yeah. I think this rivalry is going to end with a hug or a handshake at the end of it. Something you kind of don't want to see, but in a way, it respects the integrity of the sport, and we're all for it. So let's see what happens with that one. Actually, that's an interesting little face-off that I would like to see down the future or down the line. So, but let's get down to the second game, RCB versus DC. BG may have spoiled the result already, but it was a decent enough game. It was the second game of Super Sunday, last game of the week, and here's what happened. So it would seem like DC also has gotten on the bandwagon, and they want to see RCB Houdini themselves into the playoffs as well. Some pretty shocking fielding efforts from a bunch of them. Stand-in captain Aksar. There was Shai Hope who dropped one, Tristan Stubbs, all putting down really important catches.
Amazing.
And not that we're complaining, but that helped Patidar and Will Jacks marshal the middle overs after Kohli's quick start. I do want to mention this because BG's like, you gotta mention Rajat Patidar, and he has to be given a solid mention here. He has been absolutely pivotal to RCB's recent success. This is a streak that we've been on that definitely rivals some of the better sort of, runs of form that we've had. And a lot of it has to do with Rajat Patidar, with him tackling the spin in the middle overs, right? And I'm sure we'll hear from that more. But things fell apart towards the end with Lomror, DK and Swapnil falling in quick succession. And Cam was really unable to, find his form in this game. Even though he made a decent score, he was struggling to, find the middle of the bat. A lot of straight drives, classical strokes, but hey, Cam, this is T20. But RCB end up with 187. Decent total, but you can't really be too comfortable with a 187 as we've seen this IPL. The RCB bowling though, with some composure, not a lot of people were expecting. Me neither, I gotta say. Came up with the goods once again. Yash Dayal bowled a brilliant spell, taking 3 for 20 in his 3.1 overs. But his best contribution was arguably the run out of Jake Fraser McGurk, which, one of the most unlucky run outs that you can get. But RCB fans will take it. I'm talking about this guy. Lockie Ferguson with another good spell, 2 for 23 in his 4. I was kind of calling for Lockie to be dropped in this game, so I do have to say, well done, Lockie Ferguson. Delhi were bowled out for 140, keeping RCB's chances of qualifying just about alive. They're hanging in there by the skin of their teeth, but they're still in there. So now we come to, I think a couple of episodes ago we talked about pulling out the calculations, running the simulations, and we have a calculator and a simulator right here in BG, and take it away, my boy.
Yeah, it's that time of the season again, guys, where, after looking like we were completely out of it, it looks like we're well within our right to say we're going to qualify, right? No, but, let's get back down to earth. We've definitely put ourselves in contention now. So we have one game left, and it has the potential to be a knockout game. It's against the old arch enemy, CSK, with MS Dhoni. We know how that's going to pan out, but it hasn't really been the best fixture for RCB, over the years. But, RCB now find themselves in a situation where we're going to have a lot of results go our way. So, there are a couple of teams that are vying for those final 2 playoff spots. We have Sunrisers Hyderabad, there's Lucknow Super Giants, CSK, and RCB. Did I skip anybody else?
I mean, GT has an outside
chance. Delhi I don't see that happening. Delhi, GT, I'm incredibly sorry. I'm incredibly sorry. You've been okay, but I'm sorry. There's no chance. No, I definitely think it's amongst LSG, CSK, RCB, and Sunrisers as well. So it's gonna move back and forth. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. I think for RCB to qualify, I think we need Lucknow Super Giants to lose at least one of their 2, because even if they win the other one, their run rate now is so bad after a pasting they received earlier in the week that it's not going to happen for them. So hope that happens. And then Sunrisers looking likely that they're going to qualify, but never say never. If they lose both of their games, you just never know what's going to happen. But I think it's safe to say what we're all really looking forward to is that CSK game. If it's a knockout game, one team goes home. Couldn't have set it up better. MS Dhoni, potentially his final match in the IPL. Again, we say this almost every year, but then I can imagine him coming out to bat at age 50 and then the crowd's cheering him just as they do any other year, right? So, it remains to be seen, but one thing is for sure, I'm extremely happy that we've put ourselves in that position again.
Yeah, a lot of things need to go their way. It's a statistical, it's not an improbability, right? Like there Absolutely are a bunch of different routes for this to happen. And, if all goes well, we could see something fairly miraculous, which is, exciting for some of us, at least.
This guy pretends like he doesn't support RCB. He's just throwing me on the bus.
If you're an RCB fan, I think you've been living under the bus for quite some time. Hey, but there's some hope to get out of there. But let's look at CSK for a little bit, right? Like CSK, it's strong contenders, championship DNA.
As always.
They've done this on a bunch of seasons as well. Like been fighting for that playoff spot and then just stealing the trophy, down the line. So let's look at what they did against GT. So CSK was traveling to the Narendra Modi Stadium. They couldn't have expected what happened after putting in GT to bat. Some glorious batting from both Shubman Gill and Sai Sudarshan, each getting hundreds, the highest first wicket partnership in the IPL, but tied with KL Rahul and QDK in 2022. CSK shows some championship mentality after that, like we talked about with their death bowling, only giving away 41 runs in the last 5 overs. Tushar Deshpande with a great spell, all things considered, 2 for 33 in his 4 overs. But GT still get 231, a very strong total considering the average first innings at the Narendra Modi Stadium is only 171. And, CSK, not the most explosive lineup, but they do have some guns in there. But they get off to a nightmare start with a physics-defying run-out from David Miller. You got to check that run-out as well. It was beautiful, not from the distance that Kohli had, but there was a certain elegance and the way, he controlled his body and the momentum of the ball to do it all in one sweep. It was an absolutely beautiful run out, removing Rachin Ravindra. Ajinkya Rahane and Ruturaj Gaikwad followed soon after, also with some pretty good fielding efforts. Moin Ali and Daryl Mitchell revived the CSK hopes, but that was only until Mohit Sharma had something to say about it. Sharma removed Mitchell and Moin, and then for some good measure, removed Dubey as well. Such is the support of CSK that the Narendra Modi Stadium may as well have been the Chepauk. It may as well have been the CSK home ground, and such is the support of MSD that Mohit Sharma may as well have been the Yellow Army's man of the match, because his wicket of Shivam Dubey brought MSD to the crease. He finished undefeated on 26 from 11, with CSK falling 35 runs short, leaving the playoff race wide open with that result. Now, MSD is a bit of an enigma, right? Like, we've had tons of very popular players, right, playing for the country, and I think India is known for the player worship sort of mentality that we have. In a lot of ways, they say it's part of the downfall of Indian cricket. But what do you make of the MSD fanfare?
Absolutely incredible, by the way. This guy is 42 for starters, right? So, if you talk about it purely from a convention standpoint, you would argue that he shouldn't even be on a cricket field at this point. Granted, the IPL generally doesn't really have like a set sort of age where people play. I get it. It's a platform where you want young players to be able to thrive. But having said that, I think the IPL is also great because of the mix of vets and, youth, right? But I think in Dhoni's case, getting back to Dhoni though, the adulation he receives is absolutely incredible. Every stadium you go to, home, I think, it's safe to say, we don't even need to argue, the support he receives at the Chepauk. Yellow Army follows him everywhere. But, you got to go to the other stadiums that he goes to, right? When they play on the road. Jam-packed, all of them sit desperately waiting for MS Dhoni to make his way out to the middle. And it's an interesting one because it almost feels like throughout this IPL, Dhoni has only entered the fray, with 1 over to spare, 2 overs to spare, maybe even a couple of balls to spare. I think there was a match, I don't remember who it was against, but Jadeja jokingly teased the crowd, saying that he was going to come to bat, but then he immediately stepped back into the pavilion, and then Dhoni walked out to bat, and then the cheers were unlike anything heard before, right? And so it's incredible the amount of adulation this guy receives, right, wherever he goes. Sometimes we think Kohli is that guy for India, right? And he still is, to be fair. But never in my life did I envision a scenario, maybe after Sachin, wherein I saw a cricketer from India receive that much love and that much outpouring of support and emotions, right? As far as his performances this IPL, like I said, the way he's been striking the ball towards the end of the innings makes you wonder whether he should be entering the fray a lot earlier, right? Because you want him to be able to, you want to maximize the number of balls this guy faces, right? Because one thing we've seen throughout his IPL career in particular is his incredible ability to finish off innings, right? And to really take them from, total that CSK from a total that looked good, very good, to an excellent total, right? A lot of bowlers clearly feel the pressure of bowling to a set Dhoni, so long may it continue. We're not quite sure how long he's going to play in the IPL after this. Sorry guys, but as an RCB fan, it would give me immense pleasure in knocking CSK out in what could prospectively be his last IPL. But one thing is for sure, he's definitely been the person to watch across all the stadiums and all venues, regardless of the opposition. So what else can I say?
Yeah, you're definitely doing something right if you're outdoing Virat Kohli on star power. And you'd have to say that I think the combination of Chennai, CSK as a franchise, and Dhoni is definitely, outdoing the RCB Kohli, combination. And I think that's more down to one of those factors than the other. We'll leave you guessing on that one. But, like BT said, MSD possibly playing his last season. Just give it a rest already, dude. I think we're ready to see the back of MSD. The next game that CSK played may have been a very memorable one for that exact reason. It was CSK's last game of the season at the Chepauk. And it was a very memorable one. I've seen tons of tweets and, Instagram posts and whatever donations maybe. I think I've seen one or two at least. But, about to see MSD playing his last game at the Chepauk. And a lot of people saying whether or not he does it this time, it doesn't matter. It does matter a little bit. But regardless, let's look at what happened with CSK and RR. So RR chose to bat as expected, as you would do at the Chepauk. It was a strange game actually though, in the context of the IPL this season. Chepauk's never been a high-scoring one, but this pitch was so slow and sluggish and none of the RR batters ever really got going, never got a feel for the pace of the pitch throughout the innings. Riyan Parag and Dhruv Jurel, the young guns of RR, did bulk of the damage, right, to get them to 141 in 20 overs. And I think this is the really surprising part with just 5 wickets. So there is a certain case to make that, RR could have done a lot better in terms of just having that intent and trying to go for more runs, which has been the call of the IPL and the call of the game, you would think now. There isn't so much of a cautious approach that seems to be valued and it doesn't seem to work. So, I think there's definitely some stick they need to receive. And they did also from a very humble, I would have to say. It's just the way he talks. Ambati Raidu, he was in the post-match and he talked about how RR is overthinking things too much. And he has, great points there. Why was Robman Powell not playing? I don't think that makes any sense. And at the Chepauk, you probably should play Keshav Maharaj, let's talk about the chase a little bit. It wasn't straightforward, but it proved to be easy enough in the end. Captain Gaikwad basically marshaled that entire chase with cameos from Ravindra, Mitchell, Dubey, and finally from Samir Rizvi taking Chennai home. Besides gratifying the already glory-stuffed Chennai faithful, there's not much really to call here besides how brilliant Chennai were again at the Chepauk. They extend their impeccable record there. And Jadeja was dismissed for obstructing the field. But even that was one of the sort of less controversial occurrences of that decision, There was not much to say besides good job, Chennai, great job, Dhoni. Wow, you guys did so well.
So boring. When's it gonna end?
But all in all, it was a pretty fitting end to possibly Dhoni's last game at the Chepauk, in front of literally a crowd that worships the ground he walks on. But here's a polling question for you. What percentage of the Chepauk fans would rather see Dhoni get 100 than win the IPL this season? I think it would be pretty close. This doesn't shut out RCB's chances, BG. And, since you're such a big fan, I guess we'll talk about RCB. But it's not the end of the world, right? We still have a few avenues open. Oh, did I see me? But what do you make of this? The last game being CSK, it's just set up so well. It's just set up for such a nail-biting finish. You touched upon it already, but any more words for that rivalry and what's left of it?
Yeah, I feel like it's an interesting rivalry because the matchup is such wherein it's the matchup RCB look forward to the most every season, and at the same time, it's the match that RCB looks forward to the least. I think at the Chepauk, I think the game's over even before it starts, unfortunately, and I feel like that's most teams whenever they go to the Chepauk, right? Because Chennai have made it an absolute fortress. There's no denying that. But having said that, the Chinnaswamy it's a tough one because it's the match. RCB has never made home advantage count, right? And I think that's hurt a lot of our fans going around because we turn up in numbers all the time, go there and support the troops week in, week out. But unfortunately, they don't have what it takes to, they haven't had what it takes to make the Chinnaswamy the true fortress we crave. And I think our record against CSK at the Chinnaswamy really is proof, right? I think we haven't beaten them. I think we've beaten them once in the last 5 or 6. I'm sorry, you might have to validate that stat for me, but I remember the season we beat them was their worst IPL season. The one where they didn't end up making the playoffs. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago after a long time, right? Because they almost make the playoffs every year. So, yeah, it's always been a bit of a tough matchup for us. I feel like the spinners have always been able to do a job over our batsmen. We know it's well documented, RCB's struggles against spin over the years. We just don't know how to. We've gotten better, in all fairness. I think we've seen progress. But having said that, every season we have, certain spinners from every team have heaps of success against us, right? And CSK is one such team. And we've never really been able to have that command over their batters. They always have that one batter who truly goes berserk, right? And Chinnaswamy is no different. And so it's safe to say, statistics would tell us that the odds are truly stacked against us. One. Two, I also feel like, when it comes to this time of the season, RCB have found themselves in this position many times, right? And so have CSK. But obviously CSK have gone on to qualify for the playoffs and, they've won, 5 titles, right? RCB, unfortunately, have been found wanting, at this stage. And so the CSK is truly going to be a test of our resolve. Now, don't get it wrong. We can still beat CSK and we might not qualify. But at the same time, I do think it's important that we do go out on a high, even if we don't end up qualifying. And, beating CSK would truly give fans the happiness that, quite frankly, we deserve, right? It's going to be interesting. Obviously, you have the Dhoni narrative, the matchups, we can analyze this for a good while now. But first and foremost, I think it's important that we show up, we give it our all, right? Make it known that we're there to play, and let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an uphill climb for RCB, you would think, even though they're playing at home. And Dhoni's last game, he's 42, but they definitely have, I think, majority of viewers, people who know cricket, people who know the IPL would put their money on CSK. But I think it's always sweeter when you're the underdog in an equation. It definitely makes for like a certain amount of fun watching. And, people like to troll RCB and I don't blame them.
Yeah, I will say one thing though. I think one thing that I'm really looking forward to in that match is I don't think the CSK bowling outside the chip-off, mind you, has been at its best all season. I mean, as we just saw in the recently concluded match against Gujarat, on a pitch that favors batsmen somewhat, I mean, you can get after them, right? And Gujarat notched up a pretty big total. And I think it's safe to say the RCB batsmen they've been doing pretty well, right? Over the last 5 games. They've been a big part of why we find ourselves, in this current predicament. So, I think if we go after the CSK, assuming we bat first, or regardless of whether we chase or we bat first, I think the CSK bowlers can definitely be, you can take them on, and then we'll see where that takes us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we just don't need Ravindra Jadeja to suddenly decide to win the entire game for CSK like he sometimes does. But I think barring that, it's an even contest. Okay, let's talk about another team, BG. This is another one part of the permutation combinations that we were talking about. This isn't about RCB. We just want to, this is the most interesting storyline from an unbiased perspective. So we're going to talk about SRH, and the SRH has been a big story this IPL. They have definitely set the bar in certain ways for what, is a good score. They've kind of changed the way we look at a good score in T20 cricket in a way. 3 of the highest totals, 4 totals, I believe. We've talked about this a few times. But they were taking out MI. And Mumbai, at this point, unfortunately, out of the tournament already, but still some pride to play for. And I think more importantly, still a lot of the players who are actually going to play for the India T20 squad and India T20 team in the US and West Indies very soon, in a couple of months, for the World Cup. So there was still, there are things people are looking for, still an exciting game. But it was pretty unusual in a way from SRH in this one. They were put into bat first at the Wankhede, and from a team that has an explosive batting lineup at a ground that is generally, favors the batters and sees big scores. It wasn't the fireworks that we've come to expect. Travis Head only scored at a measly 160 for his 48. Pretty pathetic from Travis Head. It's been that way for a lot of Australians. They really haven't come to the party. They got their big paychecks, but they only saved their best for the World Cup, as we've seen. Anshul Kamboj on his debut finally ended up getting his first wicket after an unlucky string of events. He ended up getting a wicket off a no ball, and also a catch was dropped off his bowling by Nuwan Tushara. But the laurels were given to or snatched by a veteran of the game, Piyush Chawla. Second highest wicket taker in the history of the IPL, showed the world that he still got it. 3 for 33 in his 4 overs. Hardik Pandya also with a top spell, 3 for 31 in his 4. Pat Cummins with some lusty blows at the end got SRH to 173 in their 20 overs. A little under par, you'd have to think, for this lineup in this ground. Mumbai batting second. But Mumbai found themselves in a bit of trouble. They were 31 for 3 in the 5th over, with early wickets from Bhuvi, Paddy and Markey. I'm talking about Marco Jansen. But that was the end of the smiles for SRH. Surya Kumar Yadav showed why he's the number 1 T20 batsman in the world. Smashed a scorching 100 in half as many balls, rushing Mumbai to their target in just the 18th over. That was some top stuff from Surya Kumar. Tilak Varma also provided good support. So I think there's not a lot to talk about in this game. SRH didn't really have the fireworks, but Mumbai showed some promise. I'm saying promise. They have possibly the strongest squad in the IPL, but
Should be doing a lot better than they currently are.
Way better. Lot of 4 players in the T20 squad who are in the Mumbai lineup, right? So I thought we'd kind of talk about the T20 squad since we're here. Very organically, right? What?
Yeah.
Wow, this conversation just flows so seamlessly.
Beautiful.
Okay, so let's talk about the India squad, right? So Rohit Sharma, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Virat Kohli, Surya Kumar Yadav, Rishabh Pant, and Sanju Samson. Very happy Sanju Samson made it. So Rishabh Pant, Sanju Samson, the wicketkeepers for the tournament. Hardik Pandya, also the vice captain. Let's not hear any boos this time. Shivam Dubey, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, Kuldeep Yadav. Kuldeep Yadav squeezing into the 4 all-rounders. Only in my books, but I think he is showing some batting chops. I'm pretty proud of
Couple of
Kuldeep
lusty
Yadav.
blows towards the end.
Yeah, for sure. Yuzi Chahal also, very fond, for me for neutral reasons. BG, of course. RCB.
RCB.
This is who? Arshdeep Singh. Sometimes it sings, man.
So many of them now,
Too many of them.
Yeah.
But Arshdeep, no, we definitely... I was... definitely looking at Arshdeep to be our left-handed bowling option. I do want to hear your thoughts on that as well, BG. We'll get to that. Let's finish this lineup. Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj. Oh, so Bumrah's in the team? What? Shocker there. But the reserves are Shuman Gill, Rinku Singh, Khalil Ahmed, and Avesh Khan. Round up the 4 reserves. It's a strong team. I think any team that would have been picked would be considered a strong team. But there are some buts, right? I feel like it feels like there are some exclusions that are a bit of a surprise. At least to me, there's one in particular. I'm sure you're going to talk about it. But what did you think about this?
Well, firstly, sometimes I don't think the surprise for me per se is the fact that they've gone with experience over, some of the more exuberant ball striking talent we've seen in the IPL. We understand that, the aim of the IPL for starters is obviously about promoting such talent, right? To make them thrive, once they go on the international stage, right? But having said that, it's easy to see why, when we're talking about the T20 World Cup, right? You want to give yourself the best chance, right? Because you want people who've been there, done that, right? And so you can see why they've gone with experience. Having said that, there are some form concerns for me, definitely. For one, Rohit Sharma, he hasn't quite been... I don't think he's had the best of IPLs right now. And surprise, surprise, we're back to the whole strike rate conversation. But he hasn't really been striking the ball too well, which obviously happens when you're not in form. But also, he's 35 or 36, right? And so you ask yourself the question, is he fit enough to be able to run the quick 1s and 2s that are going to be needed, especially towards the middle of a, T20 innings, right? Where you're not having it all your way and where strike rotation is important. So it remains to be seen whether, he's going to translate that form. Hardik Pandya is another worry for me. I'm not against the inclusion per se, obviously, because he's shown what he's capable of at the ICC events. But having said that, I'm not quite sure how, the time he's had, right, in the Mumbai Indians setup now, how that's going to translate into his form with the national setup. You could argue that there's going to be a little less pressure on his shoulders, right? Because he's not going to be the one leading the team. But having said that, it is obviously a bit of a worry, right? Because we're not quite sure what state of mind he's in, right? The all-rounders, are we looking a little too light there? Jadeja, Aksar, sure, they've had intermittent knocks, right, this IPL, where they've done okay, but do we just look a little too light there? And our bowling's also not been in the best of form. Again, the idea here is not to nitpick, but it's really to ask yourself the question, going into this tournament, are some of the picks, are they in the best of form, and do you see them delivering in those conditions, right? I can see why we picked Arshdeep Singh as well, lefty, right? We need that variety, especially amongst our pacers, but not been in the best of form as well. And so I feel like the next few weeks, there are a lot of questions. Some of them are going to continue to be a part of the IPL setup now. Some of them are almost on their way home. But, it remains to be seen how their form eventually translates to the World Cup. Overall, I am happy with the team. There are obviously some omissions, which I want you to tell me about as well. I'm definitely looking forward to it when it comes.
Yeah, well, let's let the cat out of the bag already. I think the omission that we're all sort of referring to is Rinku Singh. Now, you can't have a better your record coming into this game at an international level than Rinku Singh and be excluded from a squad. Yeah, testament to how strong India is as a cricketing country, particularly maybe a batting country. But Rinku Singh's omission, I think, is extremely surprising. Partly because of his record, and we can talk about how not a lot of people are anywhere in that vicinity of his recent form, but I'm not so bothered by that, because while I agree that Rohit Sharma isn't in the best of form and his inclusion could be a little, there's some sort of criticism that could be dealt that way, but there's no doubt that if Rohit Sharma is in form and is playing well, which most of the time he is, he's going to be a great asset. It's also just an awkward situation. If we had set up our team to be young anytime before this tournament, I feel like there was some sort of leeway to exclude the big names, right? But now it's just awkward. So I'm okay with that. But Rinku Singh, not a lot of teams have a player that can come in when you need 30 runs of the last 12 overs and still have a good fighting chance. And I feel like Rinku brings that element. Like, he can just come in and
12 balls, not 12 overs.
Or did I say 12 overs? God damn it, Rinku Singh. Yeah, he could do well to score 30 in 12 balls. BG, thanks for he's not just a professor of cricket, he's also a professor of English and cricketing statistics. Yeah, I think that's probably a player that we could miss pretty dearly. We are also pretty deep with our bowling options, right? We have 3-4 spinners, 4 almost first team quality spinners. Yeah, 3 of them are sort of all-rounders. But I don't know, we could have gone maybe one of them short and made place for Rinku. That's my one agenda, I think, with this.
Yeah, no, I'm in total agreement there. With the Rinku thing, I think the two of us are in it. Yeah, we do agree that Rinku Singh's exclusion, I should say, was a harsh one. Of course, in an ideal world, I personally would have loved to see someone like an Abhishek Sharma. I know it's early days and we understand why he hasn't been included. He hasn't really played in those conditions before. We're talking ICC event, biggest of big events. But, you got to ask yourself the question at some point. You got to start breeding in talent, right, to really take on international cricketers in the larger stages, right, of these events. And so, if not now, when? Potentially, this is going to be the swan song for a lot of these cricketers right there. So, hopefully, this is their chance to, end the tournament, end their careers in the international setup, at least maybe from a T20 standpoint, on a high note, hopefully for all of us as fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, to your point, like, I think Abhishek Sharma definitely made a very, very strong case to be included. I think, again, it's a question of things being a little awkward by leaving out certain people at this point. And I think, for the next tournaments, it's only going to be younger squad. And that, I think, is going to bode well for Indian cricket. Would have been cool to see Mayank Yadav as well. We haven't seen that much of him.
So exciting.
It's the X factor, right? Like, and when you see, people like Cam Green and, experienced Australian cricketers, like, literally unable to cope with an Indian pacer. Wow.
It's a matter of pride.
I can't believe I never thought I would ever even say those words, but like, it's just so beautiful to see something like that, and it would have been cool to, have some of these exciting youngsters. So I will stop beating the dead horse and we will move on now. SRH now also played another pretty important game, LSG, right? Like one more team that's in contention to make the playoffs. There have been so many, and this is how it often is. It feels like, there are so many permutations and combinations and people fighting for the last spots, and it's definitely a fixture in the IPL, but that doesn't make it any less talk worthy. So we are going to talk further about it. But let's talk about the game first, and this time it was LSG's turn to play a strange one. After winning the toss, they chose to bat in Hyderabad. QDK was dismissed early with a brilliant catch from Nitish Kumar Reddy at the boundary. Man, that guy is making a big name for himself this IPL. Man, that was not a good look for KL Rahul though. 29 of 33 balls, criminally slow in this format. Criminally slow. Krunal Pandya too struggled struggled before getting run out from a great piece of fielding from Paddy Cummins. Nicholas Puran and Ayush Badoni get LSG to some respectability in the end, but you wouldn't feel comfortable defending 165 against any team, forget SRH. But it was a competitive chase. It was a competitive chase if it was a 10-over game. SRH chased down 166 in 9.4 overs. It was absolute carnage from Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma. And despite the absolute chaos that the scoreboard suggests, it was a clinic in some fantastic proper cricketing strokes, right? It was the highest score after 10 overs ever recorded in a men's T20 game where the ball-by-ball data is available. It was the second highest score ever, 107 in a men's T20 power play. The first highest score also owned by SRH, which was scored earlier this season, 125 against DC. But I think one of the big talking points is, SRH, great batting lineup,
We've been there before.
We've been there tons of times, right? But one of the talking points, and I think this is something that you brought to my attention, PG, was the owner battle now with the players. And we're not talking about opponent players, talking about their own players. And KL Rahul deserves some criticism, but do you want to give our viewers a lowdown of what happened?
Yeah, so for starters, I'm just going to briefly say, KL Rahul had us completely fooled. Like, we actually thought that was one of the tougher pitches to bat on until Travis and Abhishek Sharma did their usual thing. 167 in 10 overs, like, yada yada, I'm bored of that. But anyway, that was a painstakingly slow innings by KL. But no, what really caught everyone's attention after that was what happened after the match, right? Where it looked like the LSG owner was having a heated discussion with KL. Almost looked like he was instructing him, about something that went wrong during the match, or something that he should have done, or something that he shouldn't have done. And poor old KL had to take those instructions. And I don't think he was in a position where he felt like he had the ability to answer back. Poor old KL just looked extremely innocent there. Looked like he was getting a shellacking from the owner. But really, the biggest takeaway from that was, is that now it's all well and good, right? Because of how much these people are invested, right, in, their teams, and, the hope that you're able to maximize the potential of their teams and ensure that they finish as high as possible. Sure, that's common sense, right? But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself the question, is it the best look to be doing that out in the open in front of everybody else where, obviously morale is low. KL probably knows that he made a mistake, with his batting approach. You got to ask yourself the question, these things could probably be done behind the scenes in a much more cordial way. you know that this is going to become a talking point. You know that the media is going to jump on this. You know that people are going to start asking questions. You know that KL is going to start having to feel off uncomfortable questions, right? And so begs the question, why couldn't you have just waited and then spoken to KL? I mean, this is a call out to I'm calling out the LSG owner, right? You could have honestly done this, behind closed doors. No one would have been aware of it. Could have handled it cordially. Didn't look like the conversation went too well. And my last message is, KL, we will welcome you with open arms back to the RCB. I know your strike rate hasn't been the best, but trust me, we already have someone who's struggling with the strike rate, apparently. So we will welcome you back with open arms. Please come by.
Yeah, no one classier than KL Rahul to deal with things, though. Also, gotta say, handled it well. No outburst I could see. I wish he did that to Virat, actually, because that would have ended very differently.
That would have been some shot, yeah.
But as an owner, I think you should make good business decisions, and that was definitely a bad one. It's not going to boost morale. He's your captain. He's not going to play better after a public, little defamation like that, such as that.
I will point out one thing though, sorry. The difference in class, right? So Gautam Gambhir was in an interview recently, and that's when he said, he is, and it's remarkable if this is true, and I'm assuming it's true, but he said he's only spoken to Shah Rukh Khan, who's the owner of KKR, once about anything cricket related. And apparently Gambhir had a poor run of form to start off an IPL season, right? 3 ducks in a row, and then he hit 1 in the 4th innings. And then Gambhir, being the ultimate team man he is, said he was going to drop himself, right? Because he wanted the team to obviously do better and benefit from somebody else, right? Or give someone else a chance. Then he went and spoke to Shah Rukh and said that. And then Shah Rukh Khan looked at him and said, you will do anything but drop yourself. If there's one person I need to play every single game, right, for this franchise, that's you. And that was fantastic, because not only was that the ultimate vote of confidence there from the owner, right, but then Gambhir said what was great is that trust that they were really able to build, over the years. And, that was really the moment which he said really sort of got them like closer. And, and his form, what do you know, it completely turned around. I think he ended up making 550s after that. And KKR won the tournament, by the way. So that just tells you, or just that just shows you, sometimes these conversations are refreshing, right? Because you need to align with the owners and their vision. But there's a way of going about it. And also the optics of this recent episode weren't the best, right? And so I think, that I don't know what the learnings are going to be, but KL could definitely benefit from a better franchise.
Absolutely, and we've heard, and Gautam Gambhir may be en route to do that once again, coming back in. See, you treat your players well, and they will deliver eventually. Maybe not as a player, but as a coach. And GG is doing another GG, and he's probably going to take KKR to another trophy possibly, but even a playoff spot is pretty commendable. Very competitive tournament. We've seen it across the board really. Riyan Parag is another one who's had faith being shown his way by the owners, by the management, and it reaps rewards. So Sanjeev Goenka, make better decisions. But moving on to another game where one of the owners, made the headlines in a way. Pat Jindal with some, how do you describe that?
Uncouth.
Exuberant? No, that's too kind, right?
That's too kind. Yeah, that's too kind.
Dance moves.
It was some send-off, though. I mean, I think it was uncalled for, honestly. He shouldn't have been putting his nose in, what was clearly somebody else's business there, but it was a little bit too strong. I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. It made for an interesting storyline, but I think the cricket was more interesting. We don't have... I think this episode is running pretty long, so we're going to keep it brief on this one. But here's the scorecard and a brief summary of what happened. So DC versus RR was the game. If you had any doubts of what we're talking about. But DC scored 221 for 8 in their 20. Blistering knock from Fraser McGurk and from Abhishek Porel up top. They literally go berserk. Fraser McGurk, I believe it's his third 50 in this season, in a single season, third 50 in under 20 balls. And I believe that the only other person who's done that is Travis Head. Jake Fraser McGurk finding himself in pretty good company there. Tristan Stubbs puts the finishing touches on that innings, gets DC to a fairly commendable score. Rajasthan Royals now, we're doing really well, especially with Sanju Samson at the crease. He was looking in sublime form. He's carried it throughout the season. Much deserved inclusion in the T20 squad as well. But what happened? But he was part of the headlines in a different way. Sanju Samson caught at the boundary. I don't know.
The body language of the guy who took the catch. Was it? Who took the catch again? I think it was the West Indies player, right? I can't remember who took the catch. It was
Shai Hope?
Shai Hope, yeah. It was Shai Hope. So Shai Hope took the catch on the boundary. I mean, it's a flat hit to long on. Shai Hope takes catch, tries and tiptoes around sort of the rope. Replays were inconclusive, but you know how it's going to be. You know, one side gets a decision, the other side is like, did you check the replays properly? And, you know, could have gone back and forth at that point. But then, that's where enter Pat Jindal, right? And, you know, the aggressive send-off, right? Saying, get off the field, get off the field, get off the field. So I don't know if that's what he said, but it sure looked like it. But it just felt totally unnecessary. I think Sanju handled it really well. And then, you know, once Delhi got over the line, you know, there were pictures from later in the match where, you know, Pat Jindal is having a nice laugh with Sanju. It's all well and good when your team wins. Not cool, Mr. Pat Jindal. But it's funny because it's been that kind of a week where the owners have really had much more of a say than I thought they would in terms of making headlines, and bad headlines at that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a bad one for the owners, and it's been a bad one for RR as well. You know, they lost both their games, showing a huge slump of form towards the final stretch, and they've been so good at the start that it's probably not going to matter. But, you know, they fall 20 runs short of their target in this one against DC, keeping DC's hopes alive as well. We haven't mentioned them as part of this equation, but they are there with an outside chance. I think we have mentioned it, but BG shot that down. I won't say anything because I don't doubt the professor's promise.
He's apparently neutral. So we leave it at that.
But the last game of the season, or rather of this week, is one we're not going to talk about. It's KKR versus MI, where KKR ended up taking the win by it was 20-30 runs, I think. But no one cares because it is inconsequential to the race. KKR have qualified and MI are out of the tournament. Boo-hoo. But, you know, KKR, I think the thing worth mentioning is that KKR did the double over MI this season, something that they don't manage to do very often, right? They also pulled off their first win at the Wankhede earlier this season in 12 years. Not ever, but 12 years is a very long time. But you know what? I thought we'd finally get into the last segment now. Thank you for being here. If you like what we do, like and subscribe. Also, drop us a comment, dude. Say something. It's crickets. It's crickets from that end. But so this is the last week that features only, you know, the sort of group stage games. Not group stage. What do you call it? The league games. The league games,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's everything to play for. There are a lot of teams in contention. What are your predictions? Who do you think's making it out of this?
This is the $1 million question. I'm going to break lots of hearts here, like I probably did earlier in the episode with my complete disregard for certain teams, but I'm sorry, guys. So my unbiased predictions, I'm going to go with my head, guys, for context, not with my heart, because if I went with my heart, I think it's safe to say who I think is going to go through. I say it's going to be KKR 1. I think KKR go in as winners of the league group, and then 2 would probably be Rajasthan Royals, 3 would be the Sunrisers Hyderabad, and the all important question, number 4 is, unfortunately, the man in yellow, Chennai Super Kings, will go as the 4th place team.
I think DC, it seems. BG,
too many.
BG trying hard to shake the RCB fan title. We know he feels differently, but we will accept matters of the brain over matters of the heart in this one. I gotta say, I think I would be inclined to agree, but I think that RCB might actually pull this one, and if if I'm going to be part of the train that said I told you so after something so remarkably happens, I want to have to say it here first. So there we go. RCB is going to win this. We did the calculations, right? They need to win by 18 runs. Or in
they need to win by 18 runs, or if it's the other way around, they need to win in 18.1 overs. Yeah, they need to win 18.1 overs. So make of it what you will. But we definitely hope that match has, some consequence, right? And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I can't wait. I tell you that. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. It's not an impossible equation, right? There's it's not out of reach. I feel like we've been in way. Did I say we again? There's been way worse equations for RCB. But let's look at some of the other games, right? So GTKKR, no one cares. DC LSG.
Oh,
what do you think about that one?
That's an important one for LSG, because LSG find themselves in a position where they need to ideally win both their games. And the problem for LSG is their run rate, right? Because that Sunrisers loss really set them back big time. And so they found themselves in this position now where they need to win, and ideally they need to win big. So I'm rooting for Delhi in that one.
Yeah, LSG with an unmotivated KL Rahul. It's not looking good, Sanjeev going.
How many?
Yeah, so the other game is against Mumbai, and it's at the Wankhede. And I feel like Mumbai with nothing to lose is probably the strongest kind of Mumbai, right?
Yeah,
they're going to go.
They're dangerous. Surya with another 100. You heard it here first.
Yeah, absolutely. And BG is rooting for that for sure. 100%. I don't care. It could be anyone's. It's a toss up. Next game, RR versus Punjab. No one cares again, except that there's a possibility that RR could not make it,
but they would probably have to lose by. They would need to lose by big margins, and both games they have to play. So that's unlikely. So who cares? RR for what it's worth.
Yeah, but another sort of juicy one. I mean, so GT is still about in it by the skin of their teeth, I believe.
Again, a run rate issue.
Very bad run rate.
So what's interesting this IPL is you have so many teams whose run rates have severely been damaged, right? And so as a result of that, they find themselves in a position where they're going to have to win big now, even though their point standings aren't the worst. And that's where certain teams like RCB are not in, are in pretty good positions.
Yeah. RCB has really picked it up with their last few games. We were like, we
were 10th.
We were 10th with the worst net run rate for the longest time.
So imagine how good that's been.
Yeah, and at one point, I think it's not just that RCB has won big. A lot of other teams have also lost big, and it's just sort of law of averages, right? So MILSG, we talked about that one. RCB CSK, we talked about it plenty. SRH Punjab. SRH have a good draw. They have both GT and Punjab, but
both at home. You'd expect them to get through. If they win one, I do think that means they're through. Yes, they should be through. If they win the first one, then the second one just purely becomes a case of, just show up, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And last game is RR KKR. Interesting that the last game is probably going to be between the two teams on top, and possibly the first playoff game as well. So these two teams get a good look at each other right before that game.
Play the reserves.
Who do you have? Do you have a winner? Not that it matters, but I guess I'm gonna pick RR for that one. I want to see RR come back. I'd like to see them do well this tournament. If not RCB, because random, I'll take RR.
I'm with him. RCB obviously is always going to be one, but if we're talking that game or anyone apart from RCB, RR is my team.
Absolutely. I guess it's not juicy here. We're not going to be fighting over any results too much. But it doesn't matter, right? It's all about the drama in the end, and we will be covering all of that. So with that said, thanks for joining us. And if you liked what this video and in general what we do, check out the other ones as well. Like and subscribe, show us some love, spread the love as well. I know some of you are watching it but not sharing it, not liking it, not loving it, not subscribing to it, not hitting the bell notification icon and what else there is. We're still sort of figuring out this platform. We'll probably release on other ones as well, maybe iTunes, Spotify, we'll see about that. Once we get a little less lazy, once BG's doing less research. But with that said, the most important thing is keep up with all the drama. It does make it more interesting when you're following and then you have something to say to what we're saying, and keep the community lively. It's absolutely crickets right now.
Take a breath.
Self-promotion. Okay, shut that down. Well, I think all that's left to say is take care, and we'll if you don't happen to see it, come here and catch all the action with us, because the highlights are there for free in a less than 1 hour long YouTube video. Okay, I think that's about it from us. Stay safe out there, take care, and we'll see you next week. Peace.